Well, hello. It's time for another Survivor Pens video. This time I'm going to talk about the Sailor 1911 Standard with a zoom nib. Now, the last time, just let me double check my dates here. The last time I talked about this pen was my first impressions video back on October the 4th, 2017. But you have seen this pen multiple times in Pens in Use. Why? Well, let's find out. So let's dive into it. I have one in the Fresca finish, which apparently is a finish only sold in the United States. I started this video recording it on my usual dark background for this notebook, but the color was so goofy, and this is much more like it really looks. So I just went with this and I redid the beginning. I think it's a very attractive pen. It was marketed in pictures with citrus fruits, and I'm a fruit and vegetable guy, so yeah, probably too many of them. But I'm a fruit and vegetable guy, so that marketing really worked for me, and I was getting interested in Sailor fountain pens. So between last fall and this spring, I've actually picked up 2 Sailor fountain pens and several Sailor inks. So this is you might wonder what makes it different. Well, I have a Realo here, which is a large 1911. And you can see that the standard is just a little bit smaller. Apparently there are several sizes, and I'm not that knowledgeable about the Sailor fountain pen world to say anything intelligent, so we'll just go with it. So this is my Sailor 1911 Standard. As you can, I don't have any other sizes to compare it with, so just bear with me. But it's a little bit one of their smaller models. This has a nice blue finish. I don't know if the color is quite coming across right. We got Sailor Japan. What the hell does that say? Fountain pen. And nothing on the finials. This looks like it's a piston turning knob, but it's not. And we open it up. And we have a Sailor gold nib. This one happens to be a hard medium nib. They do have soft nibs I've never used. I am so sorry. I take that back. This is a zoom nib. I just traded my hard medium nib. So this is a zoom nib. You going on. Alright, so when you look, let's start up here. So 14 karat 585. So it's a 14 karat nib. My other one is a 21 karat. That's not an N, that's a Z for zoom. I'll come back to that. 1911, the Sailor's anchor logo, which I like, and some fancy doodads. Then we get to the nib. Now, to show the nib, I think I need a whiter background. Yeah. So let's look at it from the side. See how it's cut in at an angle like that? And now I'll look at it from the bottom. Nice ball, blob. But then we lift this up here. It comes to a point. Which I know we're all quavering. Or I'm quavering, you're not. You might be sick from all the camera moving. But what that does is when it's laying down really flat, then I get a very broad line. When it's upright, I get a very thin line. So it's an easy way to get some line variation out of this one nib. I think that's clever. I won't say that that's a feature I use all the time, but by golly, I like it. Now, on that note, while I get my notebook out, I mentioned that I did trade my hard medium nib. So why? I'm just not as in love with Sailor as some people are. Their nibs do nothing for me. Not that they're bad nibs. They don't impress me. So I traded that one in. Now this is one that I consider worth keeping, and I hope I'll be able to show you why. So this is a Sailor 1911 zoom nib. And it is ground to a very weird shape. And as I go through this, I hope I'll show you why, but if you've seen the original video, which is linked down below, you know why. Zoom nibs are able to do several line widths. The ink in this is a, for now, discontinued ink. It is Sailor Gentle Apricot. I happen to really enjoy their Gentle series of inks. This isn't my favorite orange, but Orange, you glad I'm sharing it with you? Ha 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 ha. But it's a nice, bright, cheery orange and perfectly readable. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about flex. Is this a flex nib? Oh, hell no. But we'll do that at that angle. We'll do the next at a deeper angle. And we'll do one very upright. And then we'll do one sort of medium. So the way you get line variation with this nib is just by the angle. So the deeper the angle, the broader it is. So I like that. That's a nice way to get some line variation very easily and very quickly in a pen. And I don't see Zoom nibs outside of the Sailor world. That right there, that nib, is why I have kept this pen. As far as wetness and flow, you might be hearing a little feedback on the paper. This is a feedbacky nib. Not heavily feedbacky, but definitely some feedback. It's not buttery smooth or anything. But no trouble keeping up there. Smear test, which might get contaminated by the darker ink I just did on my last video. Nope, didn't. Oh, wow, my finger's actually pretty clean. But yeah, that's a very wet pen. Reverse writing. So this is one of my smoothest reverse writers I have. And I think that's by design. I think really Sailor wants this nib to be used in a lot of different configurations to get a lot of different writing angles and writing experiences out of it. Now we'll go to the world famous Peter Gustafson test. You know, they may use a plastic feed. Oh, come on, I want to show them the plastic feed. But it has no trouble keeping up. It may be a cartridge converter pen with a converter that some reviewers don't like. I'm ambivalent about it. Again, focus. There we go. But yeah, this pen has no trouble keeping up at all. And because this is a revisit to a pen I've visited before, we're going to do a quote. I opened up a bunch of quotes about travel, so I picked out a couple favorites to film tonight. Okay, so just to be clear, the crossed out good, that's on me. The word good is not in the original quote. And that's Chuck. So I try to write naturally with these, and yeah, you definitely got it naturally this time. I know some people would look at this pen and say it's a cartridge converter pen. A luxury pen should have its own filling mechanism. I'll tell you the advantage of the cartridge converters from my perspective is they're a lot easier to clean. I like them. I don't mind it as much as I used to. I'm glad I have a few with the built-in filling mechanism. I know people have complained about Sailor converters, but I've never had trouble with one. I'm just very happy with this pen, and I do feel comfortable with having bought it. That said, it is a little bit of an expensive pen, and when you're at this price point, you have to start asking, is it really worth it? I mean, I got a piston converter pen for about $5. Not piston converter, piston filling pen for about $5. So that's worth questioning. And by the way, probably you can see on the camera, I'm sweating a little. It is in the 80s in the living room. I don't have air conditioning. It is in the 90s right now outdoors, and it's going to get to around 100 degrees outdoors today. So yeah, it's a little warm in here. Sorry. But anyway, back on the topic of the pen, I feel cooled off and refreshed, almost like it's spring every time I look at this color. I just love the looks of this pen. The nibs, I think Sailor did a smart thing by really focusing on nibs. If you really start researching Sailor, they have a lot of interesting nibs. Nibs where there's like 2 or 3 nibs double stacked, where they have slits going in 2 different directions on the nibs. Stephen Brown did a series of videos where he compared the different Sailor nibs. I think that's interesting. I think a certain number of them might only be useful to an artist, and I just don't do enough drawing where they would be worth it to me. But I find it interesting that they've done so much with nibs. So that was the Sailor 1911 Standard with a zoom nib, so it's a little bit smaller pen. I don't mind that. I'm known as a fan of the slim black vintage pens. But the real reason I love this pen is that zoom nib. That is a fun nib. Now, I have gotten in trouble. I have gotten page after page of hate mail over my lackluster interpretations of various Sailor pens. This is one I like. That zoom nib is fun. I like the color in this. I really like if I can put a brightly colored ink in it. It's just kind of fun. I think this finish was called Fresca, but don't hold me to that because 2017 was a long time ago, and I don't remember details like that because I don't care. But gives me just enough variety with the nib. I can do fun things. It's interesting to write with, and yeah, I would, if something happened to this one, I would replace it with another zoom nib. So, yeah, this is not a pen I'm selling or trading. This is a pen that's staying in the collection. After 7 years, it's there and it's staying. I don't have a pocket. Well, I have a pocket in this shirt, but it's weird because it's got this stupid zipper. I don't like this shirt. But anyway, it slipped over my, where is it? Here. My collar pretty easily. So it passes that test. And, yeah, I like it. I really, really like it. So, Sailor, keep making pens like this. Keep making those zoom nibs. I actually, okay, full disclosure. I had a Sailor Realo with a broad nib. Recently, I did a video of 2 of Sailor's Fude steel nibs. They're okay. But then I get this one, and it's just like, And Sailor makes some interesting nibs. Not necessarily that I want to own, but I definitely love to try. They do some interesting things where they sandwich multiple nibs together. They do some interesting grinds on them. They do some fun stuff. And I'd love to play with that someday. But for now, I'm happy with my zoom nib, and it's a lot cheaper than those things. So, I want to thank you for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.